because, you know, they come and they go. You never know what they're going to do. Can you count on them? And I have to say, I think we have some great e-members here. In fact, the woman I'm going to call on right now to introduce our guest speaker is one of those, and it's Arlen McGee.
Thank you. It's always great to be at Beaufort Rotary in person. This past Monday night, 4 Family Promise mothers who are working hard to get back on their feet financially, and 8 of the estimated 600 homeless children in Beaufort County spent the night in the Sunday school building of our church. Dinner was prepared by members of the church. 4 adults and 8 children, aged 3 to 10, and 2 overnight volunteers had that dinner together. The guests were single-parent families with women as the heads of the household. After dinner, to give the mothers a break, a couple of us took the older children out for an informal game of kind of keep-away football. Those children's energy and their sense of fairness and exuberance while spending only their second night in a place they had never been before was really contagious. Each family and the volunteers slept on blow-up beds in their own Sunday school classroom. They shared a shower facility. At 6 a.m., everyone was up. They chose breakfast items, made their lunches, boarded the volunteer-driven Family Promise bus by 7 a.m. The moms went to work or to the day center where they could look for work or gain skills. The children were delivered to their schools and to daycare. These women are my inspiration. They're holding their families together, and they're overcoming incredible obstacles one day at a time, and they're doing it with a commitment of moving every week to a different church. So it's particularly my pleasure to introduce, along with Linda Bailey, who's also a Family Promise volunteer, Linda Halpern, who's the Executive Director of Family Promise of Beaufort County. Linda joined Family Promise of Beaufort County as Executive Director in April of 2016, and she's responsible for fund development, marketing and outreach, faith-based collaborations, and the daily operation of the day center in Old Town Bluffton. Originally from Philadelphia, Linda came to the Lowcountry 20 years ago, so I think we're going to say she's adopted. Before moving south, she earned an MBA with a concentration in human resources management, spent 16 years in retail management with Talbots, and 4 years in human resources. When the leadership role with Family Promise opened, Linda was excited by the chance to become more involved in the community and working with a nonprofit in an arena that allows her to assist the very vulnerable segment of our population, homeless families with children. Linda, thank you for your work in our community and for joining us at Beaufort Rotary today. Thanks so much. Well, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? I don't want you to talk about me. Okay, fine. I know I'm not very tall, but I'm going to make sure that I do share everything about our organization. And thank you to both Lynn and Linda for sponsoring me today to come speak with you. Just move this. Oh, I guess it doesn't move. I love speaking about something that's very near and dear to my heart. That's homeless children right here in our backyard. Sadly, homeless families with children constitute 35% of the homeless population nationwide. There are over 600 homeless children in our school district, and they attend every school in Beaufort County School District. Beaufort, Hilton Head, there is not, in Bluffton, there is not a school that isn't affected. And this 600 is based on the 17-18 school year. We're waiting the information from the school, most recent information from the school district from this most current school year. So it is a big problem right here in our backyard. Family Promise is the only shelter in Beaufort and the surrounding counties. There is not one in Jasper County where one is desperately needed, nor in Colleton or in Hampton. Since we opened our doors locally, our day center is located in Old Town Bluffton. We opened our day center in July of 2008. We have assisted over 450 individuals. 61% of those individuals have been children. Our focus is homeless children and their parents. Our mission is to help these homeless families get back on their feet by providing a hand up versus a handout. While we're not a faith-based organization, we partner with over 30 organizations, a third of which are located right here in Beaufort.
That includes St. Peter's, St. John's that passed on the way, Sea Island Pres, where Linda volunteers, and a handful of others. These volunteers, and it takes, as Linda reminded me, it takes about 60 volunteers to provide the housing, the overnight accommodations, and the meals and so forth for 1 week for our families. They convert office space, any office or childcare room or nursery, they convert it into a makeshift bedroom for our families for the week. And it's a rotating shelter program, so they might be at Sea Island Pres 1 week, they might be at Grace Coastal another week, but these volunteers go in and they convert these spaces. The family all stays together with the air mattresses. The volunteers make the beds, provide the linens and the towels for our families. They partner with smaller congregations to help provide the evening meal and serve as overnight hosts, which Linda does. And that's a tough and it's a hard to fill role. So the setup, the kind of care and feeding of our families throughout the week when our bus driver drops the families off, and then the cleanup afterwards. So it's no small task. It's a variety of different faiths throughout the community, so they rotate throughout the year. Most congregations, anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, will house our families. The guests, as we call the families that come to us, learn about Family Promise in a multitude of different ways. Referrals from other social service agencies, if they happen to go into, say, Help with Beaufort or another organization looking for support or overnight housing, they will get referred to us. We are not an emergency shelter. I'm sure you're familiar, I think at Sea Island Pres has the emergency weather shelter that opens up as needed during the winter months. We are not an emergency shelter, we are a shelter program. And so if someone calls and needs immediate assistance, we will refer them to possibly other organizations who might be able to help them. Department of Social Services refers potential clients to us. Area congregations, if someone comes to them for assistance. Many let Google be their friend. Everybody has a phone. They may have nothing else, but they have a phone. It's their only way of communicating with anyone, and they'll Google homeless shelters and give us a call, or the United Way. So we get a lot of referrals. The important thing to know is that the family themselves has to call for assistance. So the United Way may say, hey, we've got, Mary and her 3 children need assistance. Mary has to be able to make that call to us. And what we do then is we will schedule the meeting with our case manager. It's hard for a lot of people to understand that there is, or acknowledge that there is a problem with homelessness in our area, because we are not an urban area, big city where it's more visible. You see homeless people on the street, camping out or in tents. It's not visible here, but it is reality. People are living in their cars, if they're lucky enough to have one. They're couch hopping from, they've been evicted from where they're living and worn out their welcome maybe with family and friends. Basically, we're their last resort. Going to a shelter is not something that anybody relishes having to do, but we're the last option. We work with 4 families or up to 14 individuals at a time. The reason for these numbers are 2 reasons. Actually, we have a 15-passenger van that our drivers, and I wish I could say they are volunteers, but they are paid drivers, and they transport our families back and forth to the day center and get them to job interviews along with our case manager. And so we have a 15-passenger van, so we can only take 14 people. Sometimes we can fudge that a little bit. If one of the families happens to have a car, then we can put gas in their car and we can maybe accommodate a couple of more people. 4 families is pretty much the max at a time, because that is about the amount of space that congregations can convert 4 separate rooms into living quarters or sleeping quarters for our families. So we are really locked into 4 families at a time. Once someone calls for assistance, we schedule an appointment to meet with our case manager. We have a full-time case manager, aka social worker, who meets with the families to explain the program. We do drug tests, we do background checks. The drug test, what typically seems to pop up with the drug test is smoking marijuana. And we do give folks a couple of weeks if they want to stop smoking, come back, get retested, and then be considered for the program. So we try to really knock down all the barriers we can. As far as the background checks, that's, if someone would say committed murder or something really severe, obviously that's not something for our safety, for our volunteers' safety, for the other families we have to be careful with. But we try to be as inclusive as possible. Families must be willing and able, the parents, to work. Because that is, like all of us, that's the key to sustaining themselves. If they're not willing and able to work, they're not going to be able to pay rent and be contributing members of our society. When the family comes in, if they're not employed, their job is finding a job. And we have someone who comes in from, it's called SC Works, and it's like the old, we know it as the unemployment office, but we have an individual comes in from Beaufort to work with the families, making them aware of job opportunities, helping with resumes, helping fill out applications, and then he can kind of go behind the scenes too to kind of see what's going on with their applications and to make sure, yes, in fact, if they tell us they applied for a job, that they actually have. Our case manager, Jennifer, when the family moves into the shelter, she gets the kids with parents enrolled in child care. We pay for all child care expenses until the parent qualifies for what they call ABC vouchers. So we take care of that. It's good for the kids. It's good for the parents, get the kids enrolled in school. We have a wonderful partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. So our kids, once they leave school for the day, they go with a bunch of other kids to the Boys and Girls Club, and that's a great environment for them. So Jennifer makes sure that the kids are all taken care of. It's a program, so it's finding a job, and jobs are very plentiful in our area. The wages that they make are not so great, but very often based on their limited work experience, kind of broken work history, and also what they're being expected to do on the job, it's not a bad hourly rate. It's not a living wage. And so it's a challenge, for these families. But we get them working, and their job is to save everything that they're making. And Jennifer goes over their bank statement with them to make sure that there is no mindless spending. They go through a financial management budgeting class with someone that we have come in from Savannah. It's trying to work with them with a lot of the skills that you and I learned from our parents or learned in school or from some other mentor in our life. These folks have been fortunate enough to have learned these skills. If they have $10, it's not like, good, I have an extra $10, I'll put it away. It's where can I spend it? So the financial management piece, working with the parents, is one of the most challenging. Helping them to determine the needs from the wants. Everything that they need, as far as basic needs, is taken care of by our congregations, by donations, by us if we have to go out and get clothes for them for an interview or special shoes for work. We take care of that. So there is really no need for them to be purchasing anything. As I mentioned, the financial management program they go through, parenting skills, conflict resolution. There's a lot of teachable moments. At our day center, there's our staff, our office. We have a very, very small staff. And there's what we call the family side, and that's where there's washers and dryers, and each family is assigned a computer for the parent to do their job searches and housing searches and so forth on. And there's a kitchenette, and there's a living room, and then a playroom with more toys than the kids have ever seen. People will say to us on that note, people will say, well, this has got to be tough on the kids. This is probably more safety, security, and love and attention that these kids have ever had. So the little kids are just happy as can be. It's a little tougher on those, the tweens and the teens, which is a tough time of life anyway, to know that you're in a homeless shelter and where you can't invite friends over to your house, or you really can't go over theirs. And it's just, we love them. We're most appreciative of our almost brand new bus that we use to transport the families, but nobody wants this goofy white bus dropping you off at school. So we try to park kind of down the street a little bit. Nobody wants to be different. So it is challenging for those kids that are older. But there, as I mentioned, there are a lot of teachable moments, and when you hear a parent how they're interacting with their kids or with others. So let's talk about how we could handle that differently next time.